at the meeting on Monday, council meeting, the police board chair verbally presented a revised phased funding request for the new police headquarters. So tell us, what is it and what's included in phase one?
So I want to just say that this has been consistent from the beginning. Like, we have a building replacement project. It's a large capital project, obviously, that the request has gone through for the entire project. And we know that in any large capital project, they're not accomplished overnight, and that it's going to take time. What I think is often lost in some of the communication is a $91 million project, for example, doesn't cost out day one at $91 million. It's factored in at different milestones over multiple years as the project evolves. So what the board, again, I don't speak for the board, but what our presentation, it wasn't so much a revised ask as it was some additional clarification to say that the first milestone of this project would be and could be the training proposal that we put out there, because that does meet some of our urgent needs. It allows us to move some swing space around between the old and the new building as we work towards ultimately what the much needed solution of the current police facility.
I guess the reason why it feels, revised is because what was submitted was the 91. And so now let me ask you, so will, another copy be formally submitted for that phase one, or how is that going to then be addressed?
Again, a lot of it's communicating and helping those who might not be familiar with projects how it works. Like, the total estimated cost is $91 million. That's the full replacement at this point in time. Yep. If we wait years to decide, obviously that cost is going to go up. If we get it approved at an earlier phase, then you can tender and have that phase locked in as you go. The way these work is we haven't contracted anyone other than an initial estimate. So we have a high-level estimate from an architectural firm that has built similar facilities, that knows the Ontario market, and has given us their best estimate of what the project is. Once the project is approved to move forward, the next phase would be get a formal design, and then we would move to the next milestone. And what we're proposing is that this initial design in next phase be the training center, which we've received an estimate for approximately $25 million. That would give us a firing range, which we don't currently have, to be able to use long rifles and some other training components that we desperately need. It would also allow us to move our backup communication center and essentially replace our space that is currently rented at the shopping mall. Okay. So we would bring that critical infrastructure onto a piece of municipal land. We'd be able to move and have our training needs met with the firearms, which currently we drive to Chatham back and forth to be able to train on these new requirements. And it would solve a lot of those initial problems, but still many issues to resolve, which would come at later phases.
And I'm sorry to put you on the hot seat for this question, but at council you had other officers with you present there, and I believe it's a fair question from the public. Were those officers present during the regular meeting on paid duty?
So, a couple things. So, number one, I would say that our police officers are on duty all the time. Yep. We have officers off duty that activate themselves. We have officers on duty that do their work. We have people, it's a paid thing. So I, as chief, have zero concerns with the number of people that were there and the people that were present in the room to show their support for the project. We ask a lot of our police officers, and we ask a lot of our citizens, our civilian members and our citizens. And they're there to show their support for what is a contributing factor in their wellness, their safety, and their effectiveness in the jobs that they do. So while someone may raise those concerns, I would argue that, okay, are some there on duty? Yes, but Sarnia Police also do countless volunteer hours. In the aggregate, I find it to be a perfectly acceptable attendance to show support for a workplace on work time that's going to impact their ability to deliver their work services to the community.
And let's talk about the police services budget. So there's an increase of 8.41 coming up here on the new 2026 city budget. How will this increase basically directly improve public safety?
So our approved budget for next year was 6.5. And we saw in the budget release that it's now an 8 number. And I think it's important for the public to understand where that number comes from. Sure. Also in the budget documents, you'll see that the police service is almost held out as being exclusively responsible for any remaining increase. So as quickly as I can explain this, when we're part of the tax levy, fire department, police, at the end of the day, we're all part of that tax levy. If the municipality has reserve funding, as is in this case, and they take that reserve funding and they apply it to next year's levy to bring the cost down, what you're seeing with that number is that reserves have been taken to bring the costs down in addition to other measures that were taken, but those reserves were only applied to everyone except us. So that is almost a misrepresentation because it artificially inflates the police budget because we don't partake of that same mitigation that the rest of the tax levy does. So I would argue that that is a misrepresentation of us in those documents. I think the fair approach would be to apply the mitigation across the levy, including the police service, and that's a truer representation of the costs. That little trick of the numbers actually takes, like, if our piece of the pie was a quarter of the pie, say, and then all of a sudden you mitigate the other 3/4, then that quarter becomes 2/3, and it makes it look artificially inflates essentially the image of what the percentage that represents.
So the original percentage was 6 point
That's
something. And how would you say then would improve public safety for the upcoming year?
So that's part of our budget deliberations that were done back in August. So what you're seeing this year is you're seeing the introduction of a new full-time ERT tactical sergeant, a supervisor, which is a conversion from a constable to a sergeant. So there's a small fractional increase there, along with some other things that just increase. Like for anyone that has subscription IT services, like email, all those costs continue to rise. The cost of technology continues to rise, and with that comes incremental increases just because of the market.